There was a woman I knew who told me something I've never forgotten. She said that after 60, she started to feel like a ghost in her own life. Not invisible exactly, but translucent. People looked through her at the grocery store. Waiters handed menus to younger companions first. Her own children called less often. She had become background noise in a world that worships youth. Then she met a man who saw her. Really saw her. He held doors. He asked questions and waited for answers. He laughed at her jokes. He touched her arm when they talked. For the first time in years, she felt solid again. Real. Present. Like she had stepped back into her own body after a long absence. Within 3 months, she had moved into his house. Within 6 months, she was sleeping in the guest room, cooking meals he barely acknowledged, and wondering how she had become invisible all over again. But this time it was worse. This time she was trapped inside 4 walls with the very person who had promised to see her. This is the danger we face. After decades of marriage or widowhood or divorce, we are hungry for presence. We crave being noticed. When a man offers us attention, it feels like water in a desert. We drink without checking if the well is poisoned. But attention is not the same as connection. Being seen is not the same as being valued. A man can look directly at you and still not see who you are. He can speak your name and still not know your heart. He can share your bed and still be a stranger to your soul. Before you pack a single box, before you give up your own front door key, before you merge your life with his, you must learn to tell the difference. You must know what real presence looks like. Not the performance of it, not the costume, the actual substance. Because moving in with a man after 60 is not like moving in when you were young. You have less time to recover from mistakes, less energy to rebuild, less tolerance for wasting your precious remaining years on someone who only wanted an audience, not a partner. So let me show you what to look for. Let me share the signs that separate men who truly see you from men who simply need someone to look at. There is a way a man listens that tells you everything, not the polite nodding, not the murmured agreement while his eyes drift toward the television. I mean the kind of listening where he stops what he is doing, where his body turns toward you, where silence falls and he waits, actually waits for you to finish your thought before he offers his own. This is the first thing you must observe. Does he truly hear you, or does he simply pause between his own sentences? Does he ask questions about what you have said, or does he use your words as a launching pad for his own stories? When you speak about something that matters to you, does he remember it the next day? Or do you find yourself repeating the same information over and over as if you had never spoken at all? A man who does not listen will not suddenly develop ears once you share an address. If he talks over you now, he will talk over you then. If he dismisses your concerns now, he will dismiss them when you are trapped under the same roof. Listen to how he listens. It will save you years of feeling invisible in your own home. Another telling sign lives in how he treats your independence. Watch carefully. Does he smile when you mention lunch with your sister, or does his face tighten? When you talk about your book club, your art class, your Tuesday morning walks with Margaret, does he encourage you, or does he find reasons why you should stay home? Does he celebrate your friendships, or does he slowly, subtly begin to speak poorly of the people you love? Isolation does not announce itself. It arrives wearing the mask of devotion. It says things like, "I just want to spend time with you," and "Do you really need to see them again?" It wraps itself in concern. It pretends to be protection. But what it actually does is cut you off from everyone who might notice when things go wrong. What it actually does is make you dependent on him for all your emotional needs, all your social contact, all your sense of worth. A man who respects your independence understands that you are not a possession. He knows you had a full life before him, and he wants you to keep it. He does not compete with your daughters for your time. He does not pout when you choose a friend over him. He does not make you feel guilty for having a self that exists outside of his presence. Then there is the matter of money. This is where many women make their greatest mistake. They assume that love means trust, and trust means not asking questions. But financial secrecy is a red flag the size of a barn door. If a man is evasive about his income, vague about his debts, Defensive when you ask simple questions about how bills will be split. You must stop everything and pay attention. Is he open about what he earns and what he owes, or does he change the subject? Does he share his credit score willingly, or does he act offended that you would ask? When you talk about how expenses will be divided, does he offer clear answers, or does he wave his hand and say you will figure it out later? Later is too late. Later is after you have given up your lease and merged your bank account and discovered that his financial chaos is now your financial chaos. A man with nothing to hide hides nothing. A man who respects you understands that transparency is not an insult, it is a foundation. And finally, look at what he believes, not what he says he believes, what he actually lives by. Do your values about family align, or does he roll his eyes when you talk about your grandchildren? Do your views on faith match, or will you spend every Sunday morning in silent conflict? Do you share the same vision for how you want to spend your remaining years, or are you heading in opposite directions while pretending the gap does not exist? Misaligned values do not smooth out over time. They calcify. They become the fault line that splits everything apart. You cannot build a shared life on fundamental disagreement about what matters most. You will only build resentment. These are the layers you can see, the presence, the transparency, the values that either align or collide. But now we move deeper. Now we step away from the aura and into the foundation. This is where the real architecture of a relationship lives. This is where you discover whether love can actually be lived or whether it will crumble under the weight of ordinary days. Let me tell you about a woman I knew. She was 63, confident, independent. She had raised children and buried a husband and built a life she was proud of. Then she met a man who made her laugh. He was charming, attentive. He said all the right things. And because she was lonely, because she wanted companionship, she moved in with him 6 months later. She ignored the signs. She told herself they would work it out. They did not work it out. Within a year, she was exhausted. Every disagreement turned into a battle. Every conversation about the future revealed how little they had in common. And worst of all, he constantly dismissed her past. He made jokes about her late husband. He belittled the way she had raised her children. He wanted her to be someone new, someone who fit his idea of who she should be. She lasted 18 months before she moved out, heartbroken and humiliated, wondering how she had been so blind. She was not blind. She was hopeful. And hope, without discernment, is just another word for denial. So let us talk about what she missed. Let us talk about the foundation. The first thing you must assess is how this man handles conflict. Not whether conflict exists. It will exist. You are two adults with decades of lived experience. You will disagree. The question is how. Can you disagree respectfully, or does every argument escalate into a shouting match? Does he listen when you are upset, or does he shut down and walk away? Does he call you names when he is angry? Does he bring up past mistakes to wound you? Does he apologize when he is wrong, or does he double down and blame you for his behavior? Healthy conflict resolution is not about never fighting. It is about fighting fair. It is about being able to say what you need without fear of retaliation. It's about knowing that even in anger, there is still respect. If he cannot do this, if every disagreement leaves you shaking or silent or small, then you are not in a partnership. You are in a power struggle, and you will lose more than the argument. Watch how he handles frustration, not just with you, with life, with waiters and traffic and inconvenience. Does he explode over minor things? Does he hold grudges? Does he punish you with silence when he does not get his way? These patterns do not change, they intensify. If you move in with a man who cannot manage his emotions, you are moving into a minefield. Next, look at the future. Not some vague idea of growing old together, the actual future. Do you both envision a similar lifestyle in the years to come, or are you on different paths? Does he want to travel while you want to stay close to family? Does he want to downsize while you want to stay in your home? Does he imagine a quiet retirement while you want adventure? Does he see his children and grandchildren as central to his life, or does he expect you to fade into the background of his priorities? You cannot compromise your way out of fundamentally different visions. You can only pretend for so long, and pretending is exhausting. If you do not share a roadmap for the next chapter, you will spend your days negotiating every turn, resenting every detour, wondering why you are always the one adjusting. Have the conversation. Be specific. Ask the hard questions. If he cannot answer them or if he dismisses them as premature, that is your answer. A man who is serious about building a life with you will be serious about planning that life. And finally, the deepest sign, the one that reveals everything. Does he genuinely respect your past? Does he appreciate the woman you are, including your history and experiences? Or does he try to rewrite your narrative? Does he honor your late spouse, or does he compete with a memory? Does he celebrate your independence, or does he resent it? Does he admire the choices you made, or does he criticize them? Does he see your scars as proof of strength, or does he see them as flaws? A man who cannot respect where you have been cannot honor where you are going. If he diminishes your past, he will diminish your future. If he wants you to be someone different, someone smaller, someone more convenient, then he does not want you. He wants a version of you that does not exist, and you will exhaust yourself trying to become her. Your history is not baggage, it is biography. It is the story of how you survived and grew and became the woman sitting across from him. If he cannot revere that, he does not deserve to be part of what comes next. These are the foundational signs: conflict resolution, shared vision, respect for your past. They are not romantic, they are not exciting, but they are everything. Without them, love is just a feeling that fades when reality arrives, and reality always arrives. When the idea of moving in together first arises, it usually comes wrapped in warmth. You imagine waking up beside him every morning. You imagine shared coffee and quiet evenings in the comfort of not being alone. There is something deeply appealing about the thought of merging lives, of building a home together, of no longer maintaining two separate worlds. The emotional pull is real. It is human. It is natural to want companionship, security, the feeling that someone is there at the end of every day. But emotions, no matter how genuine, are not a plan. And moving in together is not just an emotional decision. It is a legal one. It is a financial one. It is a practical restructuring of your entire life. And if you let the warm feelings guide you without addressing the cold facts, you may wake up one day in a situation you never intended to create. This is where many women stumble. They feel love, they feel trust, and they assume that is enough. They move in without discussing what happens if things go wrong. They merge finances without clear agreements. They give up their own space without securing their own future. And when the relationship ends, they find themselves legally entangled, financially vulnerable, and emotionally devastated. I spoke recently with a woman named Barbara. She was 64 when she met a man she truly cared for. After a year, he suggested they move in together. Barbara wanted to say yes, but she also remembered her divorce decades earlier, the legal battles, the financial chaos. So she did something that surprised even her. She asked for a cohabitation agreement. She wanted everything in writing. Who owned what? Who paid for what? What would happen if one of them became ill or if the relationship ended? Her partner hesitated at first. He said it felt unromantic, but Barbara held firm. She told him that protecting herself was not a lack of trust. It was wisdom. And he eventually agreed. They drafted the agreement together, and Barbara said something I will never forget. She said she felt more empowered in that relationship than in any other, not despite the agreement, but because of it. She knew where she stood. She knew her rights. She knew she was not giving up her security for the sake of love. That is the difference between emotional decisions and practical ones. Emotions tell you what you want. Practicality tells you what you need. And at this stage of life, you cannot afford to ignore either. Barbara's story stayed with me for a long time, not just because of what she did, but because of how she arrived at that decision. She told me that before she met this man, she spent months alone. She did not date, she did not search, she simply lived. And in that stillness, she began to observe herself. She asked questions that most people avoid. What did she truly need in a partner? What could she tolerate? What was non-negotiable? She wrote these things down. She was honest with herself in a way she had never been before. And when she met him, she did not rush. She watched, she paid attention, not just to his words but to his actions. Not just during the early months when everything felt new and exciting, but over time. She noticed how he treated waitstaff, how he spoke about his ex-wife, how he handled stress, how he reacted when things did not go his way. She watched how he managed his money, how he cared for his health, how he spoke to his children. She gave herself the gift of time, and in that time, patterns emerged. This is what I want you to understand. The honeymoon phase is a liar. It shows you the best version of someone. It hides the flaws. It smooths over the rough edges. And if you make a decision based only on that phase, you are making a decision based on illusion. You must observe beyond the charm, beyond the romance, beyond the excitement. You must see who he is when he is tired, when he is frustrated, when he is disappointed. That is the person you will live with. But observation is only half of the equation. The other half is self-reflection. You must turn that same scrutiny inward. Are you seeking companionship because you are lonely? Are you willing to compromise on things that matter? Are you settling because you believe this is your last chance? These are hard questions, but they are necessary. Because moving in with someone is not just about whether he's a good man. It is about whether you are ready, whether your needs align, whether you are willing to protect yourself even when it feels uncomfortable. Barbara trusted her intuition, and that trust came from knowing herself first. 1. It hides the flaws. It smooths over the rough edges. And if you make a decision based only on that phase, you are making a decision based on illusion. You must observe beyond the charm, beyond the romance, beyond the excitement. You must see who he is when he is tired, when he is frustrated, when he is disappointed. That is the person you will live with. But observation is only half of the equation. The other half is self-reflection. You must turn that same scrutiny inward. Are you seeking companionship because you are lonely? Are you willing to compromise on things that matter? Are you settling because you believe this is your last chance? These are hard questions, but they are necessary. Because moving in with someone is not just about whether he is a good man. It is about whether you are ready, whether your needs align, whether you are willing to protect yourself even when it feels uncomfortable. Barbara trusted her intuition, and that trust came from knowing herself first. So here we are, at the end of this conversation, but not at the end of your journey. You have lived 60 years or more. You have survived losses and celebrated victories. You have raised children or built careers or simply endured when the world told you to give up. You are not fragile. You are not desperate. You are a woman who has earned her peace, and that peace must be protected. It must be honored. Moving in with someone should add to your life, not subtract from it. It should bring joy, not anxiety. It should feel like coming home, not like walking on eggshells. You deserve to be cherished. You deserve to be respected. You deserve a partner who sees you as an equal, not a convenience. But even more than that, you deserve to love yourself enough to walk away if those things are not present. You deserve to know that being alone is not the same as being lonely. That solitude can be rich and fulfilling. That your happiness does not depend on another person's presence in your home. It is never too late. Never too late to create a life that feels authentic. Never too late to set boundaries. Never too late to choose yourself. Whether you are single or partnered, your worth does not change. Your value does not diminish. You are whole, just as you are. If you are navigating these questions, reach out. Talk to friends. Seek counseling. Join communities of women who understand. You are not alone in this. There are resources. There is support. There are women who have walked this path and come out stronger. And remember this. You are the architect of your own happiness. You hold the blueprint. You choose the foundation. You decide what gets built and what gets torn down. That power has always been yours. It will always be yours. Trust it, honor it, and move forward with the wisdom you have earned.